Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It is a joyous Saturday in Razorback Nation. The Arkansas Razorbacks, the 10 seed, knock off their biggest win of the season, the biggest win of the John Calipari era as head hog. And there are so many storylines here. We're going to get to it right away. Arkansas 75, 2 seed and 5th ranked St. John's, 66, a 9-point victory for Arkansas in the round of 32 in the colossal, Hall of Fame coaching head-to-head setup that the NCAA tournament gave us. The Razorbacks in Providence today, again, round 2, with a big 9-point win over St. John's. That's the headline right now. I'm going to get into all of what it means, but I got another thing I want to say. Take that, Big Blue Nation. Take that. If you're tuning in your Big Blue Nation, I know you're not feeling well right now. And I know your team's still in it, but man, you got to be hating this if you're a Kentucky fan. Loving it if you're a Razorback fan. I want to get that out of the way because let's talk about the positives here. A Sweet 16 in year 1 under John Calipari. And what did we say all season long, up or down? It was always about Arkansas has the size, length, athleticism, and talent. Even though they only go 9 deep, now back to 8 deep after being all the way to 7 because of injury attrition. But it was never a problem of that. It was Arkansas figuring out a way to come together as a team. Well, they got better as the season went on. Still had all those, I call them self-inflicted wounds, playing both teams. And we saw Arkansas minimize it the most today. This has not happened against a team of this caliber, a team with only 4, 5, 6 losses on the season. But it's why you're glad the SEC was good enough to get 14 teams in, and 3 or 4 of those teams at the top are good enough to make a run all the way. Well, Arkansas learned in those situations. And what did we see today against a St. John's team that's big throughout the lineup positionally is that some of their top players that are big guards, they were no match for Arkansas's big backcourt. In fact, Arkansas's two best players today in terms of production were the 2 freshmen that go 6'6". They got the better of St. John's veteran guys that had led a team to a 31-4 record coming in today. This is amazing. It was another all-hands-on-deck performance. Arkansas with only 3 players in double figures today, but it was a low-scoring game, 75-66. And Arkansas's best wins all year, they're scoring 89, 90, 92 points. Even against Kansas in the first round, Arkansas gets up to 79, 72. There was a lot more of a ground and grind effect in this game, which we knew it would be. St. John's with the top-rated defense in the country. Arkansas top 20. I thought Arkansas was the better defensive team. I thought St. John's got bailed out by whistles. Not that some of those weren't fouls, but they weren't calling the ones on the other end. And you saw John Calipari really upset about that. You saw Cal really upset at times about how the officiating was unbalanced. I thought it was unbalanced, especially in the second half. I thought Ejiofor does a really good job. He's strong in big frame, but he does a really good job of raising his arm inside whoever's guarding him's arm. He raises it up, but he doesn't lock it down. He just raises it up and he hooks and turns, and then he reacts and falls. And so he generates a lot of the contact that he gets whistles called on his behalf. And we saw Jonas Adu, who's been huge for Arkansas, dealing with foul trouble first half, second half, got its 3rd foul immediately, first minute of the second half. But what did Arkansas do? And they just kept marching. Didn't matter what the adversity was. Arkansas was the better team this game, not just because it won. Arkansas led at halftime by 3, led by as many as 8 in the first half, led by as many as 13 in the second half. And yes, St. John's took a brief second half lead. The Hogs again went back up. I think they're up 13 at one point, even though St. John's came back and took a 1-point lead. Arkansas found a way to build that back up at the end and pull away at the end. It's what we saw against Kansas, and it's what we saw against St. John's. St. John's was 9-2 in games where it trailed at halftime this season, and by having huge, call it a second half team. Arkansas was better in both halves. They outscored St. John's in each half, and that's how you win by 9. But I thought Arkansas was the tougher team defensively. St. John's a really good offensive rebounding team, averaging over 14.5 per game coming in. And what did we talk about in our little preview part in our last time on 2 days ago when we had a post game for the win over Kansas? We wrapped up with about 10 minutes of previewing this game. I said St. John's does 2 things. They don't shoot well from 3. They're really good defensively, but they get 14.5 offensive rebounds per game, and they force teams in nearly 16 turnovers per game. So St. John's with 28. They nearly doubled up their offensive rebounds today. But Arkansas had 16 of their own. Still, you were minus 12 on the offensive glass, but only 9 Arkansas turnovers. Yes, St. John's only turned over 6 times, but only 9 for the Hogs today. They had 5 at halftime, and St. John's only had 2 at the break. So Arkansas actually broke even in the second half in the turnover department, 4 for each team. But I thought that was the big part of it. St. John's was not able to couple a strong offensive rebounding game with turning Arkansas over. And Arkansas got some big turnovers late. We saw that against Kansas, and we saw it down the stretch of this game. And I thought when you look at everything, St. John's won a lot of these categories when we look at rebounds, offensive rebounds, second chance points, even the turnovers, points off turnovers. But Arkansas 46 to 38 points in the paint, and a lot of that was Arkansas just driving and getting downhill in the half court, whether it was Carter Knox, whether it was Billy Richmond III, whether it was DJ Wagner. Nellie Davis got his share. Adu got going. He didn't have a field goal attempt in the first half, sat most of it with foul trouble, got a couple of buckets in the paint for Arkansas and got to the foul line and made some. Trevor Brazile got his at the basket today. He didn't make a 3 today for once, but he got all 4 of his at the basket. And so this was a game where Arkansas got enough from backcourt and front court in that paint. Arkansas +8, 46 to 38. But this was Arkansas's problem all year, and one of my concerns about making a run was Arkansas. When you look at the teams Arkansas beat this year, I kept mentioning how you look at the top-tier teams through the regular season, Arkansas wasn't able to break through. They could stay close. They got blown out by Tennessee. We know that. First game in conference play. But they were able to stay close with teams like Florida and Alabama and Auburn on the road and A&M on the road, but they couldn't break through because their own mistakes in clusters at critical times, and other teams, just the reason they don't lose many games is they know how to finish out games, and that would be a problem Arkansas hadn't proven all year, even with that win over Kansas. I'll give you a quick stat. If you look at the SEC coming into today, was 8-6, 14 teams got in, 8-6 in the first round of games. All right, so 8 teams in, advanced to the second round, round of 32, 6 out. Of the 6 that were out, Arkansas had 6 of their wins against those NCAA tournament teams. And only 2 teams that advanced, Kentucky and Michigan out of the SEC, that won first round games, those were Arkansas's only 2 wins all year. And even though Kentucky's a 3 seed, it's a team with double-digit losses. Michigan also a really good team, but kind of floundered at the end of the season, but had losses to Wake Forest, OU, and non-conference in Arkansas. So Arkansas really hadn't beaten. It's a 5 seed. So Arkansas really hadn't gotten over the edge against a team of this caliber until they did today. And so what I have been saying about Arkansas's problems against this caliber team kind of proved out after the first rounds of games. The great SEC teams moved on, the really good ones, plus Arkansas. Ole Miss and A&M both advanced. We know who the top 4 teams in the league are when you start talking Florida, Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee. But this is very impressive. Let's not lose sight of the fact that Missouri is out after the first round. That puts a smile on my face as well. I won't go any deeper than that other than I'm glad to see that. Everything's great if you're a Razorback fan. And Calipari now, he's the winningest coach in the NCAA tournament. I think today was his 59th victory. He's the winningest active coach. Pitino and Bill Self are no slouches. He just got the better of 2 other Hall of Fame coaches. Remember, these guys, all 3 were elected, nominated, inducted, Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. That's the pinnacle. All that happened in the 2010s for all 3 of those guys. They're playing with house money, but they're still great coaches. Look at the year St. John's has. The Big East is no slouch. 31-4. The team was on a 10-game winning streak coming into today. And Calipari put an end to that. So did the Razorbacks. This was an incredible win. This is Arkansas going back to the Eric Patrick Musselman, the EPM era. He did a great job seasons 2 and 3, especially when you looked at the arc of the season. And then when you looked at his 4th year, the team that went 8-10 in the SEC, but made that Sweet 16 run. So you had 3 really good years when you talk about March Madness under EPM. Last year you had a losing record, didn't make it in. He's gone. Calipari in. But Arkansas now, its 4th Sweet 16 berth in the last 5 years. This is Arkansas's 15th Sweet 16 berth in school history. That's really, really good. And you look at this team, I'm going to go back to it. Off season, Calipari comes in. He brings players with him from Kentucky. He keeps TB. He goes and gets an Elite 8 and Final 4 experience, 2 preseason All-SEC players that forever looked like busts for various reasons. They were dealing with injuries, other things going on. But those guys, you're starting to see now the method to the madness where the guy says, I can't take 6 freshmen anymore. I got to take 3, maybe 4. And that's what happened. And you're seeing now the top 5 rated freshman class, a top 5 rated portal class. And it's all about talent, the right experience, and guys that have length, size, and athleticism. And it showed up against a big St. John's team today, which was physical and athletic and really strong on the offensive glass. I thought St. John's got away with a lot more marginal contact or significant contact than Arkansas did. It's not that Arkansas didn't get any calls. I just thought St. John's got a lot more. And when you consider that Arkansas stopped shooting threes in the second half for the most part, they stopped bailing out the defense by taking threes. They were given some open and they still drove, which I thought was smart. And that's why you were plus 0.8 in the paint. But for Arkansas to be the team shooting free throws at the end where the other team's stopping the clock intentionally, for Arkansas to still have 4 fewer free throw attempts than St. John's, I thought was a little bit of a crime. I really felt like, I'm not going to call it a cheat or a full-on bias situation, but I couldn't understand why the game wasn't distributed evenly. It's not that every game's going to have the exact same amount of foul calls on each team, but what are your eyes telling you? I saw Arkansas driving to the basket, taking a lot of contact. I thought Arkansas, on some of their offensive rebounds, some of the Razorbacks' offensive rebounds or attempts to get them, they were getting tackled, pushed out of the way, nothing. Or they would sporadically call those. On the other end, a lot of touch fouls, and maybe some of them were good calls, but they would be good calls at the other team on the other end too if you'd just whistle that. So I thought it was a little upset. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because let's focus on the positives. Arkansas goes from C to shining C now. I believe the Sweet 16 Elite Eight games in the West region will be back in San Francisco. We know that's where Arkansas went to an Elite Eight a few years ago. Went out to San Francisco, and I believe that's when Arkansas beat the overall number 1 seed Gonzaga. I believe that's right, and then lost to Duke in the Elite Eight game. I think that's accurate. The officiating was horrible was one of the comments. Yeah, it's not. There were Kadari Richmond fouls out on probably not a great call. So, it's not like Arkansas didn't get any, but there was a flagrant 1 foul call on Adu, which I thought was complete bullshit. I tweeted that out. Just a bad flagrant 1 that really helped St. John's at that point in the game. Arkansas was up 5. It doesn't matter. Arkansas was the better team. And as good as St. John's is, that is a really good basketball team. Arkansas slammed the door. You look across it, one guy went off, another guy had a good game. Ejiofor, I mentioned him earlier. He's really crafty at drawing those fouls when he's initiating what arguably could be the foul call. And he gets away with a lot of body contact moving into guys that are driving. They called 1 or 2 on him for that, but 2 or 3 that they let go. He could have easily been sitting down with foul trouble just like Jonas Adu was, but the refs saw fit not to do that. I guess they were just trying to keep the favorite in the game here, playing and basically their backyard too. There were some Hog fans there, but Spike Lee in the house wearing his St. John's gear, the Red Storm gear. Look, Arkansas and St. John's, they've only played 3 times ever. It's always been the NCAA tournament. It's all been in my lifetime when I've been glued to the game twice as a journalist and now once as or the first time as a fan, as a kid, as a teenager. But Arkansas and St. John's have always played in the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament. Back in 84, 85, really good St. John's team. Arkansas loses in the round of 32 by 3 points, 68-65. And St. John's advanced to the Sweet 16. Arkansas's Corliss Williamson, Scotty Thurman team as freshmen beat St. John's in the round of 32 to advance to the Sweet 16. And so each time the stakes have been moving on to the Sweet 16. So Arkansas has done that now. And again, it's the 4th one in the last 5 seasons for this program, which, says a lot about the brand because it's the second coach in that span to do it. And now Calipari's already got a Hall of Fame resume. Here's a guy that to me, I see him. He has improved. Everybody on the team has improved under him and that coaching staff. They're translating it to wins. They just got their biggest win of the season, their best win of the season. And it's in that tier of team, again, that they couldn't get over the hump, couldn't get over the finish line because of their own, myriad of mistakes they would have late in games against that quality of team. And now they're turning the tables. They're putting the pressure on. I thought Arkansas's defensive pressure was actually better than St. John's. Both teams did miss a lot of layups. I thought one thing interesting about St. John's today, they didn't do a good job passing the ball other than a few plays. Everything was tough for that team. Not a whole lot of easy baskets because they did a lot of one-on-one driving. And Arkansas walled up. And I just think they're bigger guards. Guys like R.J. Lewis, the Big East Player of the Year, Arkansas took his ass out. They did the same with Kadari Richmond. Now, they missed some point-blank shots, but Arkansas had contested, blocked a few shots early, and those guys were trying to make adjustments when they didn't even need to. Arkansas got in their head. Arkansas was the better defensive team. And the stats will bear that out. We're going to go through that real quick. I'm going to jump through it just on the team stats first, and then we're going to get into individuals because I thought Arkansas did just about an amazing job. Everyone on the court, including a few big key plays by Big Z, who's been almost unplayable defensively. Even on offense, it's just but he had to play and give Arkansas some minutes today because of the foul problems. And he made 2 or 3 good plays in this game that were just enough. So everybody 8 deep did something, even Big Z before he fouled out. Early in the second half, I mean, AD goes out in the first, it was insane. He got his 3rd foul, then his 4th foul after he came back in, and then Big Z's out before the midway point. But as a team, Arkansas 27 of 63, again, he did have a huge rebound, Big Z. He had a nice bucket at the end of the first half. We'll get through that. 27 of 63 against the best defensive team in the country, let's call it. For Arkansas, 42.9%, not too shabby. 2 of 19 from 3, 10.5%, but Arkansas was 2 of 12 at halftime. So the Hogs took only 7 threes in the second half. I thought that was huge. And we've seen that all year at times. When they're not making threes, they take a lot in the first half and they stop doing it. They make a point of let's get downhill, let's get to the basket. 19 of 27 from the foul line, 70.4%. Now, Arkansas's been better than that of late. They're better than that on the season. We saw some poor free throw shooting at times. But Arkansas 10 of 14 in the second half, 71.4%. And even though Billy Richmond, who's been mostly reliable at the foul line, missed a couple late, Arkansas still got to the line and other guys stepped up and made free throws. That was Carter Knox and Nellie Davis each having a 2-2 trip when St. John's was then having to foul and stop the clock. But Arkansas just really tough in this game when you look at it across the board. St. John's was held to 21 of 75 from the field. 28%. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a second. Only 2 of 22 from 3, 9.1%. We knew this was one of the worst three-point shooting teams in Division I, ranked in the 340s, just barely over 30%. Much worse than that today. They shot it well in Game 1 against Omaha from 3 in that second half, had a great shooting night from 3. When you look at how many they made, I think 14 or so, and at 37.5%. But in this game, only 2 of 22. Now, let's go back to the overall field goals, 21 of 75. So we know 2 of those were from 3. The Red Storm made only 19 field goals inside the arc. Here's a team that was making nearly 24 two-point field goals per game and getting to the free throw line like they did, but they didn't make nearly 24 field goals today inside the arc. Only 19. So Arkansas did the job. Even though there was a lot of offensive rebounds and some putbacks in there, really for the most part, Arkansas did the job there. 31 free throw attempts. St. John's was really good at halftime, 11 of 13, over 8, about 85%. But in the second half, only 11 of 18. So they were gifted a lot of opportunities, but missed 7, 11 of 18. So Arkansas 10 of 14 in the second half, 11 of 18. Arkansas shot 4 fewer, but made only 1 fewer. So that helps you with your margin when you're on a 2-possession lead late. It forces the other team not to be able to play out possessions. They got to start fouling, stopping the clock. It makes them a little more desperate. So the foul line really mattered in that second half. Again, 11 of 18 in the second half, 61.1%. What's the point here? This was a team shooting just under 69% at the foul line on the season. So Arkansas was, St. John's was much better than the number in the first half. But both teams shot 13 free throws in that first 20 minutes. Second half, I thought St. John's really benefited from the whistles, but they couldn't cash in enough. The Red Storm could not. And then, Geofor again, 23 points, 12 rebounds, 2 steals and a block. Great game for him. He was living right today. Davion Smith, especially in the second half, their quicker guard, got some things cooking. 13 points and 6 rebounds for him. But outside of those guys, RJ Lewis, 9 points. 9 points. 3 of 17 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. 3 or 4 at the foul line. That's your Big East player of the year. Kadari Richmond, who is a jack of all trades, can beat you in a lot of ways. He can stuff a stat sheet. Looked like he'd rather be anywhere but playing against these Razorbacks today. Same with Lewis. I mean, Richmond 5 points before fouling out, 2 of 7 from the field, 1 of 2 at the foul line. He had 4 rebounds, 2 assists. I mean, a non-factor. Wilcher, who's a guy that's been a starter and a productive guy, 2 points on 1 of 5 shooting from the field in your backcourt. Another guy, Aaron Scott, 1 of 10 from the field. He did hit a 3, 1 of 6. And he's an 83% free throw shooter. He was 4 of 6 at the line, but down the stretch, he missed 2 free throws and 2 consecutive free throws after being, another one of those calls that I thought was interesting, where you don't call that kind of play at the other end, but you're calling it this end because St. John's didn't have any answers scoring, so they had to get help somewhere. Little 5-on-8 at times, I thought. But Scott, 7 points. Again, 1 of 10 from the field. It just, aside from a Geofor and then Smith in that second half, Arkansas was just the better team throughout. I mean, let's go through Arkansas. The 2 freshmen lead today. Billy Richmond III, man, he makes you scratch your head sometimes, but 16 points, 6 of 10 from the field. Only took 1 3 today, thank goodness. He missed it. 0 of 1 from 3, but only took 1. 4-7 at the line. He's better than that. Today he wasn't, but so what? He got there and took 7 and made 4. So 16 points lead the Razorbacks. He was 1 rebound away from a double-double. BR3 with 9 rebounds. He only had 1 turnover. That was also huge. Arkansas took care of the basketball. When we see the implosion stretches, it's usually waves of turnovers with lazy passes and just goofy shit. And no, BR3, outside of 1 turnover, he didn't have it. 29 minutes for him today. Big game for Billy Richmond. Carter Knox started great, had a great game. Carter Knox, 15 points. 3 of 5 from the field. His only 2 misses were from 3. So he limited that, but he drove. He drove to get on the offensive glass. He drove to the basket like we know he can do. 9 of 11 at the foul line. That is awesome. He's an 80% free throw shooter. Improved on that today, but 6 big rebounds for him. He had 4 block shots. You talk about big guards driving in and not having success. Well, a lot of that was Carter Knox walling off. He's big. He's sturdy. He's got good timing. He's strong. But 4 blocks to go with 6 rebounds, that sounds like a frontline player's stats. 1 assist, 1 steal, and he was a box plus 8 in his 27 minutes. So Billy Richmond in the third and Carter Knox. Billy Richmond with a new career high, by the way. Previous was 15. He gets to 16 points. Carter Knox with 15. Nelly Davis, 13 points. He got off to a good start. He had 7 points early. Kind of got quiet. In that second half, he did get a drive and a layup when things were getting tight, and he made free throws late. But 5 of 10 from Nelly. He had 1 of the 2 triples. 1 of 4 from 3. Made both of those free throws late. 4 rebounds, an assist, a block, 2 turnovers. But what do I always say about Nelly? Arkansas is just better when he's on the floor, and the box plus minus always says it. A game high box plus 15 in his 28 minutes. Plus 15 when he was on the court, Arkansas was today. In a game it won by 9 points in the end. So a big game for Nelly Davis. I thought DJ Wagner, when we look at him statistically shooting, we're going to say, well, not his night. But a couple of things. One is 8 points, okay, 4 of 16 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. What I like is that those 16 attempts weren't padded with a bunch of 3-point attempts. He didn't settle. He drove and got downhill. Now, he missed a floater. He had a couple of layups he missed. But, man, in the second half, I think he made at least 3. I think he made 1 of his buckets in the first half. But he had back-to-back possessions early when Arkansas jumped out and grew its 3-point lead to 8 or 9. He had a couple of back-to-back possessions where he got downhill and got layups. And he had one late when it was hard to score. And Arkansas had Edu off the floor. He had another drive and finish. I thought the buckets he got were huge despite making only 1 out of every 4, taking 16 attempts. He did a really good job of at least trying to force the issue. He probably could have shot free throws today, but they wouldn't blow the whistle when he was contacted going in. So 4 of 16 from the field. He had a team high 4 assists. In Arkansas doubled up St. John's today, 10-5 an assist. Again, St. John's was mano a mano kind of game. Drive and see what happens, or hope you get, fouled after getting an offensive rebound or get a putback. And that was really kind of how the game was. But DJ with 4 assists, he had 1 rebound, 2 steals. Those were big. He did have a couple of turnovers, but remember, his turnovers, even when Arkansas was winning down the stretch here in the SEC, a lot of those games, 3, 4, 5 turnovers each game, so many games. And in this NCAA tournament, he shrunk those margins down. Only 2 turnovers today in 33 minutes, a box plus 7 for DJ. You saw when he went out of the game a couple of times, I thought Arkansas was a little shaky. And I've got one more to go in the backcourt because I really want to talk about the front court here because of the foul trouble and some of the production we had been seeing. But, the backcourt and those wings really, really picked up the slack today. Boogie Fland, another 6-point game. Yeah, a couple of those threes were so close to going in, just rimmed out. 2 of 8 from the field. He had a tough bucket to close out the first half. Arkansas was down, I think, 4 and had a 7-0 run to close the first half, and Boogie hit the final of those shots. Took contact, should have been an and one, made the bucket on a drive. But 6 points, 2 of 8 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. He's usually a reliable free throw shooter. Split his free throws, 1 of 2 his free throw attempts. 4 big rebounds in the backcourt for Boogie. 2 assists, 1 steal in 20 minutes. 0 turnovers. So he's played a total of 44 minutes in these 2 games. No turnovers. And you notice when he's on the court, Arkansas does a better job of taking care of the ball. And what's different now than it was when he left after Arkansas started 0-5 in league play are guys like Carter Knox and Billy Richmond understanding the assignment, understanding their roles. Arkansas getting more from guys like Nelly Davis and Jonas Adu. It just took them a while to play through whatever elements they had to begin the season, that they were still trying to figure things out as they got to the midway point in that early bad start in SEC play. So it's a different team that Boogie's come back to, and he's really helped them. Anybody that had worries about his ability for Arkansas to keep the chemistry together, I think we're seeing it's just fine. Arkansas's better for having him, I think. They're taking care of the ball down the stretch better, especially when he's on the court. All right, let's look at the front line. Jonas Adu, who's been a monster, 22-point game, a season high, in game 1 win over Kansas. Didn't have that kind of production, but man, he didn't have a single field goal attempt in the first half, and he ends up 2 of 3 from the field, 3 of 3 at the foul line. Most of that came in that second half because I think he did make his 2 free throws in the first half. So he scored 5 points in the second half, those 2 buckets, and he got an and one on one of those and made the free throw. But 7 big rebounds, a couple of assists, a block, a steal, and he affected a lot of those shots as well. But he, a box plus 11, and he only played 21 minutes, so he ends up not fouling out. And I thought Calipari did a good job of using him and when to bring him in and send him back out. But he did, obviously it worked out. But considering what Adu was playing through, and you know what happens when you're in and out like that, sometimes you get out of the flow. But I thought when he was in, he played really well. It wasn't one of those games where, it's just not his night. I mean, relative to those minutes, 7 points and 7 rebounds is really good production in a low-scoring game, right? 75-66. So I thought he had a really good game given the opportunities. Same with Trevor Brazile, 8 points and 8 rebounds. So these guys were, the old joke that they had with Draymond Green, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, is, they call him a triple single because he'll give you 9 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists, but that's how he helps Golden State be a dynasty. So these guys were both putting up single digits today. No double-double today for Trevor Brazile after having won the first round, but 8 points and 8 rebounds are huge in a game like this. Again, it's a low-scoring game. He was 4 of 10 from the field. That's because he took the bulk of Arkansas's threes. When you look at it individually, 5. He was over 5, and he missed both of his free throws. But look, and that was one of those stats that's interesting because when he missed both of his free throws, Billy Richmond got the offensive rebound on the second miss and got a putback. So even though that hurt, it wasn't an empty possession for Arkansas in the first half. Arkansas actually got 2 points out of that possession. So sometimes funny things happen, and stats aren't always as reliable when you look at them and go, oh, how did you win this game? Well, stuff like that. But 8 points, 8 rebounds. He also had a block, 0 turnovers for Trevin. He's one of those guys that, 1 or 2 turnovers minimum usually. 0 turnovers today. Box +9 in his 30 minutes. He was the guy that played the heavy minutes on that front line because, again, Adu limited to 21. And Big Z, 2 points. He had an over-the-shoulder little, 8, 9 foot just outside the paint bucket to help in that 7-0 run, in first half ending run. And he had 2 rebounds, and they were 2 physical rebounds that he got, where he was getting abused at least twice. He didn't. 10 minutes, 5 fouls. He only played 4 minutes in the first game against Kansas, picked up 2 fouls in that. So in 14 minutes in this NCAA tournament, he's got 7 fouls. He's just, he can't, his reactions are slow. He's weak. And his footwork and positioning. I mean, there's a lot he's still got to learn. And these were, 2 matchups going up against Hunter Dickinson and then today Ejiofor. I mean, he was just out of his league physically. And that's just what it is. To say he's unplayable for long stretches, that's absolutely true. But let's not pretend that bucket and 2 of those rebounds in a game where you're getting massacred on the offensive glass, they were big. Everything counted, all hands on deck. All right, so Arkansas again, 75-66, big win. Excuse me, folks. I'm dealing with a lot here. Big win in the round of 32. St. John's goes home. Yeah, I'm going to talk recruiting here in a little bit. I'm trying to keep it all positive right now because Arkansas is going to the Sweet 16 for the 4th time in the last 5 years and for the 15th time in program history. John Calipari is the next coach, Arkansas Razorbacks coach, to do it. Kentucky fans are flipping out. They're hating this, and their team's got a chance to win tomorrow to go to its own Sweet 16 as a 3 seed. But this is Arkansas's best win, clearly. I mean, this was the 5th-ranked team in the country that Arkansas just beat, a top 5 team. And now you get a sense, after all those failures, a handful of failures of that caliber team in the SEC, you get a sense that maybe if Arkansas meets up with, let's say, Florida, let's dream a little bit. We don't know. Drake's really good mid-major that's going to play Texas Tech, the 2nd-best team in the Big 12, a really good team. They play next, or they're playing now probably. Yeah, it's 16-12 Drake. I haven't even been paying attention. I've got it on my television screen here. So it's 16-12 Drake with about 12 minutes left in the first half. Both of these teams are going to be a tough opponent, obviously, by the time you get to the Sweet 16. Everybody's really good. But Arkansas, 2 teams that Arkansas's played this year, Michigan and A&M, are playing now almost halftime. Michigan's up by a point, 35-34. Arkansas split games against those teams. If you're a Razorback fan, I really don't care about the SEC at this point and what they do to prove anything because Arkansas is all that matters. So I'd love to see a team Arkansas beat Michigan, beat the team Arkansas didn't beat A&M and get to the Sweet 16. Why not? Whatever. Who cares? But right now, I don't know if you have a preference between Drake and Texas Tech because Drake's a really good team. So I don't know who you want out of those 2. But it doesn't matter for Arkansas right now. I have to worry about it. They're going to have time to prepare. They're going to have time to get guys rest. And, oh, by the way, I don't know if it's complete gamesmanship. I thought it was for this weekend with Adu Thero, Arkansas's leading scorer, leading rebounder, leader in steals, leader in field goal percentage, when you look at having enough attempts to qualify. But maybe he'll be available this next set of games, or at least one game, because you got to win that to play the second one. By the way, the next round of games will be another Thursday, Saturday in San Francisco. So it's Thursday, Saturday again. That's what Arkansas just had. And it's also nice to have success when it's Thursday, Saturday, because now if you're an Arkansas fan, you get to sit back, watch the rest of the Saturday games. You get all day Sunday, and you don't even have a game to worry about the next day like you did in between here. You get a few more days to enjoy this and think about what's ahead. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've gotten this far. I said all of the things leading up to now to say, I think this Arkansas team, who's to say this isn't a final weekend kind of team now? They're big, they're strong, they're athletic, they're skilled. They got 2 guys in Jonas Adu and Nelly Davis who both know what it feels like in the last 2 years of going deep into this tournament. And they're playing like they mean it right now. That wasn't always the case. You got Trevor Brazile who's playing better than he's ever played at Arkansas. He was really good through Maui, and then he comes back early December, gets hurt 2 years ago. But even then, I don't know that he was as consistently good as he's been. He had some really good games. I don't know that he's ever been as consistently good as he is now. And he's got his first taste of postseason in college. Missouri was no good when he transferred from there. He helped that Arkansas team that went to a Sweet 16, but he was gone in early December and never played again. So even though he was on the team, he didn't participate. And we know what happened last year. So here's a guy that's playing really well. Arkansas's freshmen, just two of them arguably had their best games of their career today against a team that everybody's talking about. They're a great second half team. Well, they were 9-2 after trailing at halftime. Great second half team, a veteran team, a big team, a strong team. And your freshman went and played like that. You know, DJ Wagner has played well in this tournament. He's played really well in this tournament. So he's averaging double figures when you combine both games. I mean, this to me is an Arkansas team. You look around, outside of Big Z and his struggles, and if Arkansas gets a Duthero back, I don't know how good it can get. I don't know, is he ready? Is he 100%? What are the dynamics on the front line with other guys? So far, getting Boogie back really helped. Yeah. Okay. So I guess let's do a little recruiting now. I'm so excited about this game. So I do have an update. I do have a source that reached out to me yesterday. And he basically is telling me he thinks Arkansas's out of it. This is a good source for Nate Ament. This is a good source. It's one source. I haven't heard this from any other trusted source yet. He thinks that Arkansas is not in the mix at this point for Nate Ament. And he says that, the NIL numbers are starting to really spiral up, which was kind of part of the plan for Ament in his camp. And he thinks Arkansas is out of it. He thinks Duke. He's not definitive about Duke's going to get him. He thinks Duke's in the lead. Well, if he's not sure about that, but he's sure that Arkansas is not going to get him, I'm still a little bit, well, if you're not sure about who is getting him, maybe there's still a chance. And not that this guy's been 100% with me. He's a very good source. He's well connected, former college coach, a lot of NBA ties, a lot of college ties, really, really, really knowledgeable guy, and a lot of talks to every. I mean, but he's not 100% with me. He's really good though. So that's the insight I've got on Nate Ament today. Is maybe not. I'm not sold. I'm not sold that Arkansas is out of it because it's John Calipari. I'm told that it's not about what's wrong with Arkansas. It was almost like Arkansas was playing too much far behind coming into this. But when there's Arkansas can match anybody in NIL. It's a matter of do they want to. And this source also doesn't know did Arkansas have a stopping point on NIL, and that's what it is. He doesn't know that. So I'm leaving out some hope that maybe it's not accurate. But we're coming down the stretch here. It's week after next when Ament makes his announcement public. But the top 3 rated 5-star 6'9" combo forward out of Virginia, Calipari's made him a priority. And the news is from at least one source, only one source right now, and this source is not certain on what the destination will be, only that he believes he's heard enough to think Arkansas is not in it. So we'll see. Maybe that's true. All right, so that's my nugget of intel on Nate Ament. We'll see what's true there. Maybe there's more to come to learn more on that, either backing up that notion or saying no, not true at all. So let's see where that goes. We know Arkansas just got a commitment from Kareem Artal, a 6'9", versatile forward, 20-year-old Lebanese forward, played in the Lithuanian Pro League. That happened just a few days ago, earlier in the week, midweek, so just a few days ago. So Arkansas's got a 4-deep class as it is right now, and their first front line piece for Calipari that's not out of the transfer portal, because everything else that he's gotten out of high school has been guards and wings. That's still true when you look at that top 5 rated class with 2 top 10 rated 5-star guards, Darius Acup Jr. and Malik Thomas, 1 and a 2, plus a top 75-ish wing out of Arkansas, Springdale, Isaiah Sealy, a 6'7" combo guard / winging, play the 1 through 3, and now you add Artal, and we'll see what's going on with Nate Ament because we're going to find out for sure if we can't firm up more in the background as to what might be true or what might not be. Nearly 40 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. I appreciate you joining me on the post game. I'm going to throw in another name that's not even been talked about going to the portal. The portal officially opens up on Monday, the 24th of March. So 2 days from now. And we've seen a lot of announcements of players that are seasons are over. They're announcing that they're going in the portal. These players, it's probably around 100 or so that I've seen. We've talked about a few potentials. And then there's names we don't know yet. And there's this weird event. I don't even know if it's a tournament. It's not the NIT. It's not the CBI. It's like the college basketball crown. And they start, it's teams that some of them have losing records. EPM and USC, Southern Cal, are going to play in it. And the games start like March 31st and April 1st. And maybe they play the off week while in between the Final Four and the title games. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know much about it. But there's a player for a school that's going to play in that, Central Florida, and it's a player that's familiar to Arkansas fans. And I've got a source telling me that he's hearing that if this guy goes in the portal, which makes me think, do they already know he might be, that Arkansas is going to be in play here potentially. So we'll see what happens, because there's going to be a lot more names. But it's a guy that put Arkansas in his Final Four last year when he transferred from George Mason. Keyshawn Hall, Central Florida in the Big 12, 6'7" guard. So one of those big guards. We know Calipari loves him. Started his career at UNLV. Then he was at George Mason for a year, and this past season at Central Florida. But 18.8 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, 2.4 assists, shoots nearly 43% from the field, 35.4% from three on nearly 4 attempts per game. So good volume and a good percentage, and he's nearly 82% at the free throw line. So he was a guy that when he did his Final Four last year coming out of George Mason, Arkansas was in there. Obviously, Central Florida was. But he released his Final Four right when Eric Patrick Musselman had taken the job at USC. And I believe he released the Final Four when Calipari had been announced as Arkansas's coach, but I'm not sure that he was quite on campus yet for that introductory press conference. Maybe he had done that, maybe not, but it was right in that pocket of time. And this young man released his Final Four, and he was on the record saying at the time, the reason he kept Arkansas in there, even though EPM left, was that Ronnie Brewer, who was the leftover, was still recruiting him and telling him to hold on and that Arkansas might still have interest. It was a situation before Eric Patrick Musselman left where at one point in time, he was trying to commit to Arkansas, and Arkansas was holding him off for a minute. So there was a lot of interesting stuff there going on, and I think part of the reason they were holding him off was because the staff had been looking for a job for a while and trying to get out of there anyway, and it just worked out the way it did. It ends up Central Florida. So I've got a source telling me now, keep an eye on him. He hasn't announced he's going in the portal. This weird event, tournament, the college basketball crown, Central Florida's playing some, whatever, teams that are not worthy of postseason, getting some postseason, whatever. So is he a guy that wants to, when the portal opens Monday, put his name in there and he's still going to play with his team later? We've seen that happen in college basketball. That's a thing. Or does he wait and play that game? Or does he never enter the portal? I'm told if Arkansas's got interest in it at this juncture and he's not even announced that he's going to go in, that must mean that, what we hear publicly is not what's really lining up with what's going on behind the scenes. Something might be getting telegraphed there. And we'll see where this goes, if anything. But I'm giving you another recruiting nugget here. A 6'7" guard putting up those kind of numbers in the Big 12. And it's not just production. It's pretty good efficiency on that production. I remember hearing when he was leaving George Mason that he was a really talented guy. But some of the coaches, some assistant coaches I talked to said, sometimes he's kind of a me first guy. And so that's another thing, where is he at in his maturity? What's going on there in terms of what are you going to get out of him aside from talent and ability to do some things and put up numbers? What kind of a team guy is he? Because, Calipari's done a really good job. That's the one thing when I watch this team. I have not seen selfishness with all the problems this season. I really have not seen a strand of DNA in any of these players in terms of how they fit together at Arkansas. I don't think he's okay with that. And I'm not trying to bag on this guy. I'm just going over what I heard over a year ago. It may be an unfair thing to say now because he may have progressed, matured, and ironed some of that stuff out. There might have been some, sometimes perceptions or sometimes exaggerated. So you never know what you're hearing, how accurate is it? So I've given you the best picture I can about Keyshawn Hall. Obviously, retention's a big part of Arkansas's plans moving forward because we know who they've gotten out of the high school class, and the international player coming in. That's 4 players. I think they're going to expand from 9 to at least 11. Maybe caps it at 10. Maybe they, because of NIL and how they want to use it, they can figure out a way to get to 11, maybe even 12. But Arkansas is going to have the backing. Calipari is going to have the backing he needs to get it where he needs it to be. But right now, what have you done? You know he can recruit. You know he can sell it. He said we're just moving the headquarters, and he's backing it up. And the fact that he went the last 5 years going 1-3 in the NCAA tournament. Remember, one of those years was the COVID year where his team won the SEC and didn't even play an SEC tournament game. It got shut down before all that. No team played in the dance. And then after that, the next 4 years, he had a team that wasn't good enough to get in one of Arkansas, I think the first Elite Eight season. Then he had a couple of teams that got beat by double-digit seeds in the first round, and then he had a split of games, winning one and losing one. I think to Kansas State was the loss with the chance to go to the Sweet 16. So he's 1-3 in the NCAA tournament. He's 2-0 in Arkansas. He's back in the Sweet 16. Here's a guy with a national title, multiple national title game appearances, 6 Final Fours, 59 tournament wins, a gazillion conference championships at various schools, and conference tournament championships, and plenty of Elite Eights and Sweet 16s. You don't have enough fingers to count them all up. And here he is back in the Sweet 16. And he's separating himself a little bit right now from Pitino and Bill Self, isn't he? And so, I can't wait to hear more from Big Blue Nation and what they think's going on here. How could they be so wrong about the Hogfather, about the Don? How'd they get it wrong? I mean, I don't blame them what the expectations are at the biggest of blue bloods in the last 5 years there. It's not like they, are completely out of whack. But here's a guy that does a lot right. And even though some of the postseasons weren't good, his regular seasons they were still strong in a league that's gotten better and better and really strong last year. Finished second behind Tennessee, only a game out. So don't tell me that John Calipari is not a hell of a coach still. And he's proven it in this NCAA tournament so far. Again, Arkansas improves, by the way. I mean, mentioned the record 22-13. Arkansas, that's really the most wins Arkansas's had. Obviously didn't get to 20 wins last year. But for a first-year head coach, has Arkansas in its history, I should have looked this up, has Arkansas in its history ever have a first-year head coach win 22 games and go to a Sweet 16 at Arkansas? I don't think so. I think he's, he's really, really good. I know John Pelphrey, can't believe I made that mistake. John Pelphrey won 20-plus games, and his team that he inherited, the entire roster basically from Stan Heath, made the NCAA tournament, and they won a game. They beat Indiana and lost to North Carolina in the second round. So he was probably the most successful first-year coach. It's laughable to even say that with him and what he did to Arkansas, but it's a fact. Whatever happened, that happened. And so Calipari's even exceeded that. So Calipari is the greatest, not just based on resume he brought with him. He's the greatest first-year coach that I'm aware of in Arkansas history. Someone point out if I'm wrong about that, but who would it be? So it's just amazing the luck Arkansas's had when you really look at it going back to the mid-'70s with Eddie Sutton, then Nolan Richardson. You brought both of those guys, up-and-comers out of the mid-major ranks, Creighton and Tulsa, regional guys that went on to be stars and Hall of Famers. And now you get Calipari, who's already a Hall of Famer, a household name, and a coaching icon. I mean, but beyond wins and losses, this guy's an icon because he changed the game in many ways. How recruiting's done, the level of success his players have had once they get drafted and go to the NBA, all kinds of stuff. And then you had this Italian, college basketball crime boss storyline, not just because they're both Italians, and that's fun to do with movies like Goodfellas, Casino, and all. You know what it is, the all-time. It's all-time fun storyline. But both of these guys have had their share of controversy, vacated titles, following them around. I mean, you had Pitino in a restaurant after hours, and that shit that went on, and stuff with players and on visits and all kinds of stuff at Louisville. I mean, There's plenty of stuff that's followed these guys off the court. Calipari at a press conference nearly going to blows with John Chaney, the Hall of Famer at Temple back in the day. I mean, everything was jam packed into their careers. That tells you that this was a big deal outside of just what's inside the lines. But they've been in the mix for a lot of big time stories. Look, if you go back to the '80s, who are the biggest coaching names going back to the '80s to where we are now? 50 years, over 50 years. Mid '70s. Who are the biggest coaching names? Let's go mid '70s. The two guys who are no longer in it, Bobby Knight and Coach K. And then the other three at the top are Calipari, Pitino, and Bill Self. There have been other great coaches that have spent some time being talked about. When you go back that far, guys like Boeheim, Luda Olson, Tom Izzo. There's plenty of other ones, but no, I don't think those 5 coaches have spent more time in the public consciousness, in the headlines, in the success, and what they've done. Dean Smith is obviously up there. You could argue, well, he's in that top 5 and one of those other guys doesn't belong. Okay. The guy that I can't, his name, it's gone blank. I know his name, the longtime Kansas coach that could never win a title there and followed up. Dean Smith at North Carolina. Arkansas matched up with him. Got his longtime North Carolina guy anyway. He's also up there. But though, you talk about 3 coaches in this pod in Providence and being forced upon each other. It was a lot of wild storylines there when you look at the arc of those careers. All right, 52 minutes in. We're almost an hour in. Glorious weekend for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Again, they're going from Providence now to San Francisco. Huge win. Arkansas, when you look at the final stats, and we went through some of it, Arkansas +8 in the paint, 46-38. Arkansas was +6 in fast break scoring, 11-5. +4 in bench scoring. We know that's been the trend of late, not always. They were getting hammered in bench scoring earlier in the year, but 24-20. Each team had 5 steals. Arkansas +4 in blocks. That storyline may be as big as any, 7-3, because it wasn't just the blocks. I really think it impacted St. John's and those bigger guards and wings on those drives. They were out of sorts. They just hadn't felt that playing in the Big East this year. They just hadn't felt that. They felt it today. And Arkansas +5 in assists, again, 10-5. And I thought St. John's, again, this is an Arkansas team you can get to make some mistakes if you work it. If you figure out a passing game. And the success that Geofor was having, they probably didn't play enough 2-man game with him. And maybe that's just not their strength. But, man, 5 assists. And so I thought Arkansas was great defensively. And I think the nature of St. John's and the way that it plays kind of played into Arkansas' strengths. They were talking about how Arkansas's problems, self-inflicted wounds, unforced turnovers, doing goofy stuff, a team like St. John's would probably take advantage. And I thought Arkansas was a team that took advantage of miscues a lot better. And I thought St. John's left some on the table. Although that team was excellent on the offensive glass, that's true. We went through those numbers and was even better in the turnover game. I think the key in the turnover game was Arkansas only had 9 against a team that forces 16 per game. Anyone else think Mike Anderson's laughing right now? Maybe. Did he get paid at St. John's? Did he get his paycheck? I mean, they kind of screwed him over there on that deal, the way I see it, from the way I put it together. All right, almost 54 minutes in. Maybe I should sign off. I do have a game article out on HogvilleNET. I need to go add quotes, more stats, individual player stuff, maybe a little more play-by-play than I had from the first half, add some into the second half. And we'll see about Amen. I still see comments about that. Let's see on that. Again, a good source, but not perfect. Really good, but not always perfect. And again, the couple of things. The fact is that he's not sure that Arkansas will step out because of NIL escalation, and he's not sure on where the destination is. To me, that means if he doesn't know those things, maybe still somewhat of an open book there. But that's the information. He thinks Arkansas is out of it. All right, thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit subscribe, like, and share if you haven't already. I'm Kevin McPherson. I'm going to sign off. Arkansas off to the Sweet 16. 75-66 win over 2 seed and 5th ranked St. John's today. The Razorbacks making the SEC look good right now, with a chance to do even more damage. And I'm at the point now, I'm going to sign off saying this. I don't think there's any team in front of Arkansas that the Razorbacks can't beat. I think Florida in this West region is probably the best team in the country. And going all the way back when Arkansas started 0-5, they had their chances in that game in Bud Walton Arena. They missed 15 free throws, lost by 7 or 8. They had they were solid defensively most of that game. I don't think there's a team in this field that Arkansas, if it plays like it did today, can't beat. So having said that, let's keep our eyes on it. We got some time between games. If anything breaks between now and then, I'm coming back on. Until then, thanks for being here. Take care. We'll see you next time.